Hey guys, Dino at Speed Circuit here, and today we're going to go over a little special project we have going on. It's this Audi R8 V10 Plus that is getting a twin turbo kit set up from Sheepey. So let's check it out. So you can see the owner of the car did some custom carbon fiber accents here. He's got the canards, he's got a little lip, and it really makes the car pop. It makes it look more aggressive. You know, the Audi R8 V10s are basically the same thing as a Lamborghini Huracan, except the poor man's version, but it's the same chassis, it's the same car, it's just a different body and different interior. They're a little understated, but they're a really nice car, but you know, a lot of people like to punch them up a little bit looks-wise to make them stand out a bit more. And he's done a lot of tasteful things, from the side skirts to just a little accents in order to make them look nice. He's got wheel spacers on here, so the wheels sit kind of flush. And as far as all the factory wheels go for this car, these are my favorite ones. They have kind of the machined face and the colored sides of the spokes. They're just a good look. A lot of them are just all one color and they don't really stand out the way these wheels do. These cars are available in a lot of colors. They have a kind of like a Miami blue-esque color that I really like. That kind of reminds me of my 911 color. And I think that's what I would do if I bought an R8. So back here, you could see the important thing we have going on, which is the twin turbo kit from Sheepey. Now this is a stage 1. These are 6466 turbos. They're V-bands, which if you come closer, you can see everything's a V-band setup, from the turbine housing inlet to the wastegates to the full exhaust system. Pretty much everything is V-band, and that's really nice for adjustability and installation. It makes things easy. You don't have to worry about turbo hardware getting seized up. It's a nice way to do things. Now this is just a stage 1 kit, which means it runs about 7 psi of boost. It's got the 2 external wastegates here. And it also, the stage 1 kits have a flash tune that goes on the factory ECU. So that's what we have here. The TCU is also tuned. If you want more power, this turbo setup is good enough, but you'll also have to have standalones. Sheepey uses Motex, and I say Motex because there's actually 2 ECUs. So you end up running 2 ECUs, and you can turn up the boost and you have more control over things with the standalone. So right now this car is limited by the factory ECU, and you can make well over 1,000 horsepower if you upgrade to the Motex. The stage 1 kits like this one are 800 horsepower, which is pretty good. This car moves pretty good. It's almost finished. We're just still working on a few things. So let's go over a little more detail here. As I mentioned earlier, we have the 6466 turbos here. Everything's V-band. Now we have the back bumper off this car right now simply because we're still, you know, verifying everything and making sure everything's set up right and that we don't have any leaks and all of that. So the rear bumper is kind of an ordeal to get off of this car, believe it or not. So we're gonna leave it off until the very last minute and then put it all back on. So you can see they use heat sleeving. There's a lot of attention to detail in this kit. They send us heat sleeving to go with everything, which is really nice. Most of the lines are all, you know, braided lines instead of rubber hoses like a lot of companies would use. These are the blow-off valves here, and that's just a really nice touch. One thing that we did on our own, the wastegate lines, which the wastegates are right here. The wastegate lines are, we made steel braided lines. I don't know if you can kind of see in here. But we used AN fittings and made our own stainless braided lines. That way we have a nice secure wastegate setup. So that way we don't have the risk of any rubber melting and causing an issue where you overboost and potentially hurt a very expensive motor. You could see here that we have an air-to-water intercooler setup. So basically there are heat exchangers that cool the air on the way to the throttle bodies. And there's a pump up front and a water box that handles all of that. It's very efficient. It's a nice way of doing things, because if you did a traditional air-to-air setup for an intercooler in this car, it wouldn't work very easily, because you'd either have to have the intercoolers up front and you'd have to have all the piping that went back and forth, and I don't even know where you'd put it, to be honest. Or you'd have to have intercoolers maybe in the body somewhere here, and they might not fit. So this is what's standard on a lot of these V10s, is air-to-water setups, and it works really well. Now, don't mind all these wires and things like this that are kind of zipped up out of the way right now. That's just temporary. These are wires and things that go to the rear bumper. But again, since we're not running that at the moment, we just wanted to secure them out of the way. So they're just temporary. They're not going to be there when the car is finished. So you could see these water lines, you know, they're all AN fittings. They actually run down in through the tunnel underneath the car. So that way you can route it up to the front where the water box is, and I'll show you that in a minute. There's throttle body adapters here that are CNC billet aluminum, and those are provided by Sheepey. So that way we can get the Vangean style clamps to go on them directly. Everything's a Vangean style clamp, which is really nice. So if you want to take them off, instead of needing a tool, you just pop it right off and it comes off. They also allow a good amount of flexibility, which I failed to demonstrate there. But it allows things to kind of flex and move and angle while the car is moving and everything's adjusting without having a situation where you have a boost leak. So it's a really good way to do it. They use flex bellows here for the wastegate dump tubes that lead back into the exhaust. Just a really well thought out setup, laid out really nicely. I just like the way they do things, down to the details of, they have a ceramic coating center housing on the turbos, because, you know, unless you have some kind of special center housing that's aluminum or stainless steel, which 99.9% of them aren't, they're going to rust and they're just going to look crappy. And no one wants to spend all this money on a car to have, you know, a rusty turbo. So they took the extra time to do that, which is really nice. You know, again, external wastegates, nice turbo smart wastegates and blow off valves. It's just a nice quality setup. They didn't really cut any corners, and you know, they thought of the kit really well. They've gone through a lot of revisions over time, but this is a current one. We got this kit in, I want to say, early to mid-October, probably mid-October, and you know, it's solid. You know, I've installed a lot of turbo kits over the years, and even have produced our own turbo kits for certain cars, and we've done one-off setups before. So I have a lot of experience with these turbo kits. I've been turboing cars for 20 years now, and I will say that most turbo kits that I've dealt with have some kind of fitment issues that make them a pain in the butt. I was expecting a lot worse, especially considering this is a twin turbo setup, but things went together nicely. I didn't have to modify anything. A lot of turbo kits, you know, pipes don't fit, and I have to cut this and weld that and kind of make things work, because their jigs are not very good, but you know, they did a good job. There were certain parts that were tricky and that were, you know, a tight fit, and you know, we kind of struggled a little bit getting everything lined up 100% perfectly, but it worked, and it actually did fit together, so that was nice. Now if we go here, we'll take a closer look at the front. So earlier I mentioned that we have lines running through the tunnel for the water system, and in here we have our water tank, little reservoir, nice billet aluminum cap. If you look down in there, it's just water with some water wetter in there, which is why it's pink. We have a water pump right here, so that just circulates the water through the system and keeps everything cool. Now it is a louder pump, so you do hear it a little bit in the car. It's not the end of the world, but you'll hear a little bit of whine at idle. When you're driving, you don't notice it, but you'll hear it if the car is quiet. So with that being said, let's start her up. It'll be a cold start, so you're in for a treat.